In reflecting on the readings today, I kept thinking of that wonderful passage from St. Augustine's Confessions, where he talks basically about the wisdom of God and the loveliness of God and the beauty of God. Let me read it for you. Late have I loved you, O beauty ever ancient, ever new. Late have I loved you. You were within me, but I was outside, and it was there that I searched for you. In my unloveliness I plunged into the lovely things which you created. You were with me, but I was not with you. Created things kept me from you. Yet if they had not been in you, they would not have been at all. You called, you shouted, and you broke through my deafness. You flashed, you shone, and you dispelled my blindness. You breathed your fragrance on me. I drew in breath, and now I pant for you. I have tasted you. Now I hunger and thirst for more. You touched me, and I burned for your peace. St. Augustine, as I said, is basically talking about the wisdom of God, the wisdom that brought everything into existence, the wisdom that holds everything together and sustains everything in life, the wisdom whose aim was simply to draw everything to itself and to hold everything eternally in an embrace of love so everything could live forever. And what Augustine always also understands is that this wisdom is a person, is Jesus Christ, and that to relate into Jesus and to allow Jesus to relate into our lives, this is what it means to stand in the wisdom of God, and this is what truly gives us life. And it's this wisdom that the various readings are talking about in different ways. In the first reading from the book of the prophet Isaiah, we hear about the demotion of one public servant and the elevation of another. And the reason why the one was demoted was because he was abusing the resources which were entrusted to him. The other will have the key of the city of David placed on his shoulder, and it means that he can unlock all the resources of the kingdom for the sake of the flourishing of the people. But more than that, he can also unlock the treasures of the Torah, which contain the wisdom of God. He can instruct the people in how they are to live and how they are to walk in the Lord's ways so that they will truly have life. And this is what wisdom is all about. And in the second reading from St. Paul to the Romans, St. Paul continues this because he begins with a quote from Isaiah. He says, "Oh, the depths of the riches and the wisdom and the knowledge of God! How inscrutable are his judgments and how unsearchable his ways!" Now, Isaiah at this point is about to send the people into exile, to announce to them that they are going into exile. And yet he looks down through the centuries from his prophetic stance. He's able to see that the power of God has been working from the beginning to gather a people to himself. And he knows that in spite of their being sent into exile, the same power of God is going to draw them back again, to create to them into a people where God can truly dwell, where they can be touched by his life and his love, where they can dwell with him in happiness, the wisdom of God once again. But St. Paul also understands that this wisdom is a person, is Jesus Christ, that Jesus Christ is the one who brought everything into existence. Jesus Christ is the one who sustains everything in existence, and Jesus will be the one who, through love, draws us to himself, embraces us in the Father's love, and loves us into life forever. This is the wisdom of God, and this is what God has planned for us from the beginning. In the Gospel reading, we have the story of St. Peter, and it continues this understanding of wisdom. First of all, Simon Peter is able to say, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." And Jesus says to him in reply, "Blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my heavenly Father." Simon Peter knows what he does and is able to exclaim what he does, that Jesus is the Son of God, because he has the wisdom of God in him. As we know from the Gospels, Peter is very often a fumbler. He betrays the Lord on several occasions. but his heart was open to the power of Jesus, and Jesus was able to be in him, and he was able to be in the life of Jesus. And this is what gives him insight, and this is what gives him wisdom. There's a life going on inside of him that is able to bring him to these conclusions. You are the Christ, the Son of the living God. Jesus is truly within him. And he becomes the rock. And the rock there's an allusion here to Abraham forming a people. Abraham was also a rock. And Peter is supposed to do the same thing. He's supposed to gather a people around himself. And he is the one who is going to be the administrator of God's goods for the people. But what does that mean? What does that mean exactly? Well, it says that he's going to be given these keys. I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven. Now, we Catholics, when we hear about these keys, we think automatically of the papacy or infallibility or the power to forgive sins or not forgive sins. But that's not the original meaning of the keys. The keys had, first of all, a rabbinic understanding to them. The keys were necessary to unlock the treasures of the Torah. And this is what the rabbis did. And Peter is given the keys because he's going to unlock the treasures of the good news. He's going to open the doors in which this is contained, the doors of the gospel, to allow people to really be touched by what's contained in them. And what's contained in them is, once again, Jesus Christ. He is the life of the Gospels. He is the good news. He is the wisdom of God. And through Peter's preaching and the apostles' preaching, they will be able to bring this good news, bring this treasure to everyone who's able to hear them. We live in terrible times now. The pandemic, the divisions in our country, etc. It goes on and on and on. And it's very wearying. And we see the ugliness of the world around us. But to go back to Augustine, we're called to be lovely people. And the way we can do this is by being steeped in the wisdom of God. And it's precisely these things that the church opens up to us. Through the sacraments, through the preaching, through the reading of the scriptures, all these things are the unlocked doors of wisdom through which all of us can enter. And when we allow ourselves to become steeped in the life that's in these things, the very life of Jesus Christ, there we become lovely, even in our ugliness, even in our sinfulness. The Lord transforms us into this. So this is what I think we need to be about in this time of pandemic. As we look at all the ugliness in the world around us, to understand who and what we are. We are baptized into the very wisdom of God. We are baptized into the very life that brought creation into existence, sustains us. We're baptized into the power of love that never ceases to draw us to itself, that will never cease, that will never let us go, until it has us in an embrace that can keep us alive forever. So in all these difficulties and all these troubles, let us really look to the church in which we stand, look to the church of which we are a part, and to understand this love will never let us go. This love will always make us lovely wherever we open our heart to it. This love will eventually bring us to life, no matter how many things are tearing us down around us. The peace of Christ be with you all.